Greetings, my name is Kevin Matthews and I am the tax professor. I want to welcome you back to class. Remember, class was never out of session because the learning never stops. All right, and so today we're going to talk a little bit about a topic that I think is very timely. Today's the first of the new year. It's January 1st. I want to try to get this out a little bit sooner rather than later, just because of the fact that, if I put it in rotation, it's going to take a little while for it to actually get sent out. I think it's a very timely topic, however, because we're going to be talking about restriction on IRS collection procedures. And the purpose of this video is not really to talk about what the IRS isn't allowed to do. Generally speaking, when my clients are running into IRS issues, the IRS behaves well. At least they behave within the lines that are outlined in the notes that I have here today. And that's not necessarily I know in the history it generally has been problematic. Where the IRS has had some bad actors who have behaved in very poor manners, and as a result of which, what's ended up happening is that they earned a very bad reputation for themselves in some of their collection tactics. There were several laws that were actually passed, and of course the one that governs them right now, that really governs them the most, is the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, where they have certain things that they can do and certain things that they can't do. Now, and I kind of bring this up as a timely topic because, again, as it's January 1st, one of the things that we start to notice at this point, this is when a lot of tax fraud stuff starts happening, because what will happen is, and tax fraud really takes place in a wide variety of areas and a wide variety of methods, but one of the two common methods that'll happen that start with this year, or that start with the beginning of the year. One is fraudulent tax filings. And then the second is where you get a solicitation from somebody to wire money or send money to them immediately so that they will wipe out a debt or a perceived debt. And usually what will end up happening is they'll call you and say, hey, look, my name is so-and-so, I'm from the IRS, you have a debt and you need to pay it immediately, or else we're going to come and we're going to repossess your house, we're going to take your car, we're going to take your kids, we're going to take everything, or whatever. When we go through this letter, you're going to understand what a lot of those limits are. You're going to realize why the stuff that they mention in these phone calls could never happen. Okay, and before we start getting into it, I'm going to share kind of a funny story that I had. I believe it was 2 years ago. I received a call from one of these people, these crazy people, and I guess they just had no clue that they had accidentally called the CPA's office. And they called me and they said, hey, we wanted to talk to you about your IRS tax debt. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, not me. Boy, you guys got the wrong person. And so I decided to play along a little bit and have some fun with them. Like, oh really? Gosh, I thought I did everything right. Well, I do everything on TurboTax. I thought everything was right. And they're like, well, it's not. You need to send money to us immediately. I'm like, oh, really? Where do I need to send the money to? Oh, I need to wire it to you in a bank account. And then what I ended up doing is I took all that information that I had gathered and I contacted the IRS's CIS office, which is the Criminal Investigation Service, and turned it over to them. And part of the reason why is because I'm a tax professional. I've been doing this for 15 years. Look, if they're going to call me, I'm going to gather the data that I can gather off of them and then turn it over to CIS, and CIS will do whatever CIS does. You shouldn't do that. In fact, if you do get a phone call from these people, basically what happens is that you're going to need to hang up on them pretty much, because the IRS is not going to initiate collection procedures by calling you on the phone. They never do. They just don't. Okay, so if you're getting a phone call and it's the first you've been hearing of it, that's not the case. Now, obviously, if you've already gone through collection procedures and you have a case agent that's assigned to you and you know the name of that case agent, sometimes they will reach out to you if they're going to be doing follow-ups on phone calls, but they're never going to do an unsolicited phone call in order to collect stuff. Okay, so please make sure that you take heed of that when you are doing this. So there are some things that they're not allowed to do under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. The IRS has to follow this just like any other debt collector has to. And there's certain things that they can't do. They can't do anything that's abusive collection processes or harassment techniques. For example, they cannot communicate with you in an unusual time or place, meaning no phone calls after 9 o'clock. So if you're getting these random phone calls at 10 o'clock at night, asking you for money, it's probably, I would say 99% it's not the IRS. Use violence or criminal action to harm to the physical person, reputation, property, or property of any person. The IRS cannot use obscene or profane language or language that has natural consequences of abusing the person hearing it or reading it. So if for some reason and this goes even if you are talking to somebody who's a member of the IRS, if the IRS person or if the person that you're talking to and say they are a member of the IRS, if they start using language that's abusive, and that is not appropriate. And I will tell you that does not speak well of 99% of the people that work at the IRS. And look, I know I spend my entire life working for my clients against the IRS. I will tell you that I have nothing but professional respect for almost everybody who works at the organization. Everybody that I've met personally that interacts with the organization has been phenomenally professional and kind and courteous. They understand that what they're putting people through can be a very shall we say, tenuous event. And so as a result of which, they don't want to do this, but they have a job to do. And quite frankly, their job is not the most popular job on the earth. And that's usually why when I'm dealing with the IRS and we're having collection issues or things of that nature, I would tell my clients, let me handle it. Okay, I'm the dispassionate one. I'm not the one who's going to cause any issues, because if you start getting passionate with them, you're going to raise their passions, and it's going to cause some of these things to unintentionally happen, which is not good for either side. So if the IRS does violate these rules, as we've outlined here back earlier, you do actually have the right to seek damages against the IRS in a civil action. That's way beyond the scope of this video. You would need to talk to a lawyer about that and go get legal advice at that point, which is kind of the exact issue of what I would suggest. If you have a situation where you're contacting and you're talking to the IRS, and the IRS has been abusive to you or has done something that's way outside the scope of what they're supposed to do, that's usually when you want to start getting a lawyer involved. Okay, it may not wipe out the IRS debt as a whole, but at the same time, you have a right. I mean, you have rights. You should not be subject to anything that would be in violation of your rights when dealing with the IRS. I will tell you that if you do have IRS collection circumstances taking place, that is when you need to start getting the help of a CPA, NEA, or a tax attorney. And I would probably err on the caution of somebody with a lot of experience or an attorney. Okay, and I'm talking on the CPA EA side. You want somebody with a lot of experience, people who actually have tax court experience. I do. I've been to tax court. I've helped clients go to tax court. And so if there's been a situation where you think that you're going to go to tax court, or you think that you're going to be dealing with significant legal issues, you probably want to make sure that you're working with at least somebody in the beginning of one of those three designations, the EA, CPA, or tax attorney, and then we can refer it up to the lawyers as need be. Well, that's a short video. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions for me, feel free to reach out to me. You can leave a comment in the comment box below. Remember, if you like the videos, please go ahead and like. And if you really like this series, go ahead and hit subscribe, and we'll be very happy to give you updates to these videos as they come out. My name is Kevin Matthews, and I am the Tax Professor. If you need to reach out to me beyond the comment box and liking and all that, you can also go to my website at www.betasolutionscpa.com. Again, that's www.betasolutionscpa.com. And you can leave me an info email through our info site. But you could also see wonderful additional videos that we have actually been outlining. We're getting up there in the numbers, so hopefully, by the time we get done with the 2019 tax season, there's going to be plenty of them out there, and then you'll be able to learn quite a bit from it. Thank you very much.